Yes, I do. 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 Oh, hello there. I'm Scotty. You're not. Welcome back to Martial Arts Month. And today we are looking at Kickboxer 4, subtitled The Aggressor. But again, I'm just going to put Kickboxer 4 on the thing. And I just have one question after watching this. Look, okay. So I admitted that I looked up things about the second one after I watched the first one, way back when. I was like, okay, I'm not going to bother with the sequels. Now, I enjoyed 2, and I enjoyed 3. Okay, I'm like, okay, so maybe these aren't that bad. We get to this one. Now, I didn't hate this one. I do have my issues. From the minute they started this film, my head started to hurt. I had a headache earlier, and I took a couple of Advil to get rid of the headache, and it's fine. But I don't know what happened here. The only thing I can think of is Albert Pyun came back to direct this film. Albert Pyun is very much the guy who doesn't want his stuff messed with. Right? He got mad when they did sequels to Cyborg without his permission, without him being involved. So he did the Nemesis movies, if I remember correctly. If I'm wrong, let me know. So he did Kickboxer 4, and with no surprise here, it ignores 3 because Albert Pyun, But the continuity in this movie ignores 2 and 1 while also acknowledging 1 and 2. It's baffling. It is so confusing. This feels like a script for a generic action film, and they said, hey, let's make this a kickboxer movie, and just added David Sloan in as a character, as the main character, and and then added stuff at the beginning to connect it to the first 2, but not the third one. It doesn't make sense. So first of all, the beginning of this has a bunch of flashes to the first 2 movies, as it's being written in a letter from David to his wife. A wife that he did not have in the previous 2 films. Now, I already said that 3, you could dismiss that. But even going by the second film's continuity, and they said it takes place 2 years after the events of the second film. He's been in jail for 2 years. This is 94, the first one is 91, so it's 3 years. 3 years after the events of the second film, and it's 2 years he's been in prison. So he went to prison in 1993. In 1992, which is when the second film, or the third, which is when the third film would have taken place. So that's out the window. Not happened. Also, he had to have met his future wife, dated her, and married her all within the span of a year for this to work. Yes. And why is David in prison? Well, because you see, Tong Po framed him for murder. Not only that, they also established that he works for the DEA. Zayun Chow is not in this. He's not mentioned once. They do show flashbacks to the first 2 movies. But that's it. And he is taken from his prison cell and brought in by by the DEA agent, who, by the way, is the neighbor from Christmas Vacation. That I don't know, Margot. That guy brings him in and says, "Hey, we need you to take down Tong Po. So we need you to go in as a fighter in this tournament that he's having, because it's a kickboxer movie, and you need to go undercover." And what do they get him? Go undercover, and he can't know it's you. So what do they get him to disguise himself? A pair of shades. That's it. That they don't. They give him a wig and a beard or something. Nope, just shades. And no one's supposed to notice him. After he gets there, he meets this woman named Darcy, who's basically a whore, from what I could tell. She's a lady of the evening, as you could say. And she's there to... Oh, by the way, Tong Po has now become a Mexican drug lord. Do you need any more evidence that this wasn't supposed to be a kickboxer movie? This was some generic movie about a washed-up fighter who went to prison, now has to redeem himself, and they mixed and matched and made this. It has to be. I can't find any production notes on it, but it has to be. This makes no sense. Yes. So he has to go to Mexico to do this. On his way there, he meets this woman. I think her name is Megan. I don't really care. She's not a big part of the movie. He's trying to save his wife, so there's that. And so he gets there and he's wearing his shades. Tong Po, the only reason this works is because Tong Po never sees him. Like, he's always out of reach. Every time Tong Po's around, he's not around. It's very convenient, don't you think? I guess. Of course, he and Megan don't get along. He helps her in a bar fight, and she like goes off on him because she's another fighter, and she didn't want that. But then they meet each other at the thing, and he has to prove his worth by fighting her. So he just chokes her out, but she gets a second chance later. But against anyone, and she gets another chance. I guess because she needs to be a part of this. I don't know. He also meets a guy named Lando, who is a former student of his that he said would never amount to anything, but now he's a DEA agent. Sure. I don't know. Yeah. I got itch. Alright. And this is... So there's a scene where he's sneaking around, and then we cut to a random guy with two naked chicks gonna have a little bit of sex scene. Why is that in there? It's not important. We never go back to it. Like, they start going at it, and it cuts back to David, who's wearing a mask, as he's trying to get through, and then we never go back to it. So what was the point of that? It's like a big alligator moment. Only it's a big tit alligator moment, because we don't go back to that. Things even start to get more confusing. So Tom Matthews is like Tong Po's right-hand man. At one point, he goes to visit him, and Tong Po is in front of this vigil with a woman, and that he calls Cyan, and he's going like this in front of her, and I go, who's this woman? His sister? What is it? Find out later that it was his wife, and I'll come across that when we get to it, but it's another moment in this movie that just baffles me. So eventually, because like I said, it turns out that Lando is also another DEA agent, so he tries to figure out where Vicky is. Okay, I gotta say, where the fuck is Vicky? Wrestling reference, look it up. So trying to think. So at one point, David's completely absent from the film because they need to have someone going around. That's why they added Lando, so he can go around and move around more, because he can move around more. David can't, but doesn't matter because eventually David is revealed, and Tong Po is surprised to see him, and because he's supposed to be in prison. So yeah, but so then we get to the point where he announces that the rest of the tournament will now be to the death. If anyone chooses to leave, they can. Some do, and then he kills them right away. Okay, and those who are left will fight to the death. He also explains that it's the 5-year anniversary of his wife's death, and that she died 5 years ago, which, if you're keeping track, this is 94, that would be 1989, when the first film took place, and that David Sloan is responsible. Bullshit! He didn't even know David Sloan. He wasn't aware of David Sloan until the second film. They even said that in dialogue in the second film, that after Tong Po killed Kurt and Eric, he thought there would never be a way to redeem himself, and then he found out about David. So that is complete and total bullshit. What more do I need to convince you this was a different script they just shoved the Kickboxer character into? Oh man. I don't know. I don't know. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. This movie's not bad. It's boring at points, but it's not bad. It's just some of the decision making that is confusing to me. It has its moments. It's not a badly made movie. It's very obvious there was something else going on here. That something else was going on here. That this was not a Kickboxer script. Everything contradicts itself. Can't think of the word. Everything contradicts itself, right? Let's put the timeline together. Okay, the first film took place in 1989, right? 1 year later, in 1990, is where I just remembered that. In 1990 is where the second film takes place. So, all right. So, if he's been in jail for 2 years, prison for 2 years, and this is 1994, maybe he had a 2-year period before he met his wife. So this took place in 1994. It's been 2 years, so it was 1992 that he went to jail. So, in 1991, so it was a 2-year period where he met his wife, got married. Okay, that's plausible. But also, if you're saying that in 1989, David Sloan, who was working for the DEA somehow, caused the death of your wife during a raid, and in that same year, his older brothers just so happened to come to Thailand. Now, if you could connect this back, if you established that David Sloan in the second film is a former DEA agent that is retired and now running the gym after his brothers died, that would have worked. Because if you remember in the first film, I'm trying to make this work, someone comes to them, to Eric and Kurt, and says, hey, come to Thailand where the sport was invented. Tong Po could have sent them to get revenge on them. He paralyzes Eric and leaves Kurt a crying mess until Kurt vows to get revenge, right? He knows Kurt's going to try to get revenge, so then he'll eventually get him in the ring and kill him. Only Kurt's smarter, he's stronger, and he's able to do it because he's Jean-Claude Van Damme. And he beats his ass, right? He beats Tong Po. Tong Po wants revenge, so he kills both of them. And then goes after Kurt Sloan to finish up his revenge. Get his honor back, as the movie says. If you had established this, that would work. But it doesn't, because he's never been established to be a former DEA agent before. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So you know what happens now. No, I messed up. David defeats Tong Po, but is stopped from killing him by Tom Matthews. Like I said, right-hand man. He then kills Tom Matthews by flinging a knife into his head, grabs his wife, and leaves. I don't believe he kills off Tong Po, so Tong Po is still alive. I thought it would end with Tong Po's death so we can end this story. Because I know this next one's not about the Sloans at all. At least I don't think so. But yeah, it's then they walk off, the movie ends. I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna give it a middle of the road. I'm gonna give it middle of the road because I didn't hate it. It's just the continuity errors are big and massive, and it's frustrating, right? It's frustrating. But I wouldn't say it's not worth your time because I would say if you're watching through them, watch it. You know what I mean? Watch it. You know, you're probably gonna be confused, especially if you're watching through them like I am. But by all means, watch it. And it's not too frustrating to where I freak out and total fry in hell. No, it's just confusing. That's all. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on Kickboxer 4? Let me know in the comments. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'm Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.